Hey guys, welcome back to The Readers. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is a pro-revenge story. This one is fresh and still unfolding, but it's already hit an explosive level. Some details intentionally vague. Context. I'm a woman in my mid-30s with a solid job in tech marketing, a field that's constantly evolving. I've just re-entered the dating scene after a long-term relationship ended last year. I'm what you might call a diamond in the rough. Gorgeous face, killer smile, but carrying a few extra pounds. Still, I never struggle to get dates. I'm not rolling in cash, but I've got enough to enjoy life. I live in Toronto, a melting pot of cultures, and my ex was from India, so I'm open to dating people from all backgrounds. What happened? About a month ago, I matched with Carlos, a charming guy from Colombia, just a couple years younger than me. He seemed to tick all the boxes. Sweet, affectionate, smart, family-oriented, emotionally available, well-educated, and working as an engineer back home. We hit it off immediately, both in and out of the bedroom. He was upfront about being here on a tourist visa, but hoping to stay. I made my stance clear right away. "Look, Carlos," I said during our second date, "I can't help you with immigration stuff, but we can enjoy the summer together, and if you manage to stay or come back, we'll see where things go from there." He nodded, his dark eyes twinkling. "Of course, Sarah, I understand completely." Then came the plot twist. After about 3 weeks and 5 fantastic dates, we were texting about my latest project at work when he dropped the bomb. Carlos: "You know, with your job and all, have you ever thought about being a sugar mommy?" Me: "Haha, good one." Carlos: "No, I'm serious. What do you think?" I was floored. Feeling insulted and angry, I let him have it. Me: "Are you kidding me? That's incredibly disrespectful. I thought we had something real here." Carlos: "Come on, don't be so uptight. It was just a suggestion." Me: "A suggestion that's humiliating and offensive. You should be ashamed of yourself." That seemed to hit a nerve. He backpedaled, claiming it was all a joke and that I was overreacting. No apology, just deflection. Naturally, my next move was to screenshot everything and vent to my closest friends. I felt foolish for thinking he genuinely liked me and furious that he thought I'd need to pay for his company. My friends, bless them, kicked off what happened next. My best friend Jess started digging into his online presence. Together, we uncovered about 8 different Instagram accounts using variations of his name, all with photos uploaded in suspicious batches. Facebook showed a similar pattern, but he slipped up on one profile, tagging the restaurant where he was working illegally on his tourist visa. I reached out to my friend Emma, who works with the Canada Border Services Agency. She looked into his file and dropped another bombshell. Carlos had a wife and 2 kids back in Colombia. At this point, I was seeing red. Jess took charge, creating multiple group chats on various platforms with Carlos's family members and friends. She shared all the screenshots along with a scathing message about his behavior. As people started blocking her, she just added more. I found his sister's number, and Jess texted her too. Soon, everyone in Carlos's life, including his wife, knew about his infidelity and attempts to scam women. About an hour after our online blitz began, I got a message from Carlos. "Carlos, you're supposed to be smart enough to know I was joking. I don't need to sell myself to anyone." I left him on read. Next, I filled out an online immigration reporting form with all the info we'd gathered: his work details, employer's name and address, his local address, full name, date of birth, photos, and screenshots of him admitting to working. These reports usually take forever to process, but I gave the file number to Emma. 2 days later, CBSA officers paid Carlos a visit at home. They caught him with a phone number registered to a local resident. All his roommates had numbers issued to the same person, directly linking them to the employer. Carlos received a caution for attempted fraud, a no-contact order regarding me, and a flag on his immigration file that will likely bar him from ever returning to Canada. His roommates got warnings too. The officers then visited the restaurant. They found substantial evidence of illegal employment practices involving Carlos and several others. The investigation is ongoing, but the owner is facing potential fines in the 6-figure range or even jail time. Carlos isn't getting deported because it's cheaper to let his visa expire, but he's now facing a 5-year ban on re-entering Canada. If he contacts me again, though, they'll fast-track his deportation. As I wrapped up sharing the story with Jess over coffee, she grinned and said, "Well, looks like Carlos's scamming days are over. Karma's an idiot, eh?" I couldn't help but laugh. "You bet. Hope he enjoys explaining all this to his angry wife and facing the music with everyone back home. See ya never, Carlos." The next one is an entitled people's story. I never thought I'd be writing about something like this, but here we are. It all started on what seemed like a normal Tuesday at Westfield High. I was in my junior year, just trying to get through each day without too much drama. Little did I know, drama was about to find me in a big way. Lunch period was always a relief. It was the one time during the school day when we could relax a bit, chat with friends, and not worry about pop quizzes or homework assignments. My best friend Jake and I were sitting at our usual table, talking about the latest video game we'd been playing. "I'm telling you, man," Jake said between bites of his sandwich, "that boss battle is impossible. I've tried like 20 times and can't beat it." I laughed. "Maybe you just need to level up more. I beat it on my third try." We were so caught up in our conversation that we didn't notice Miss Hartley, one of the English teachers, approaching our table. She was known for being strict, but what happened next was beyond anything I could have imagined. "Mr. Thompson and Mr. Carter," she said sharply, her voice cutting through our laughter. "The noise level at this table is unacceptable. You two will be joining me in detention after school." Jake and I looked at each other, confused. We hadn't been any louder than the other students around us. In fact, the cafeteria was buzzing with conversation, as it always was during lunch. "But Miss Hartley," I started to protest, "we weren't being that loud. It's lunchtime, everyone's talking." Her eyes narrowed. "Are you talking back to me, Mr. Thompson? That's another detention. Now both of you, be quiet for the rest of lunch period." I was stunned. 2 detentions for talking during lunch? It seemed ridiculous, but I decided it wasn't worth arguing further. Jake and I spent the rest of lunch in silence, exchanging confused glances. After school, we reported to Miss Hartley's classroom for detention. As we walked in, she looked up from her desk with a smug expression. "Ah, our troublemakers have arrived," she said. "You'll be writing lines for the next hour. I will not disrupt the peace during lunchtime, and I want complete silence." We sat down and started writing. The room was eerily quiet except for the scratching of our pencils. About halfway through the detention, I felt a sneeze coming on. I tried to hold it in, but it was no use. I let out a loud, "Achoo!" Miss Hartley's head snapped up. "Mr. Thompson, I said complete silence!" "I'm sorry, Miss Hartley," I said. "It was just a sneeze." I couldn't help it. She stood up, her face turning red. "That's it. You clearly have no respect for authority. We're going to the principal's office right now." She marched us down to the office, muttering under her breath the whole way. When we got there, the principal, Mr. Johnson, looked surprised to see us. "What seems to be the problem, Miss Hartley?" he asked. "These two were causing a disturbance during lunch," she said, her voice shrill. "And now Mr. Thompson here is being deliberately disobedient during detention." Mr. Johnson looked at us. "Is this true?" I took a deep breath. "Sir, we were just talking during lunch like everyone else. And in detention, I sneezed. That's all that happened." Miss Hartley's face got even redder. "He's lying. These boys have been nothing but trouble all day." Mr. Johnson looked uncomfortable. "Well, perhaps we should call their parents to discuss this." My heart sank. My parents were out of town on a business trip, and my older sister, Emily, was my guardian for the week. I knew she'd be annoyed at having to come down to the school. About 20 minutes later, Emily walked into the office. She looked confused and a little irritated. "What's going on?" she asked. Mr. Johnson started to explain the situation, but Miss Hartley interrupted. "These boys have been disruptive and disrespectful," she said. "They need to learn to respect authority." Emily raised an eyebrow. "From what I understand, they were talking during lunch and my brother sneezed during detention. Is that correct?" Before anyone could answer, Miss Hartley lost it. "That's it!" she screamed. "I've had enough of this disrespect!" And then, to everyone's shock, she stepped forward and slapped me across the face. The room went silent. I stood there, my cheeks stinging, unable to believe what had just happened. Emily's eyes widened in shock, then narrowed in anger. "Did you just hit my brother?" she asked, her voice dangerously calm. Miss Hartley seemed to realize what she'd done. She took a step back, stammering, They were being disrespectful." Mr. Johnson finally found his voice. "Miss Hartley, step outside now. Emily, I am so sorry. This is completely unacceptable." Emily nodded, her jaw clenched. "You're right. It is unacceptable, and I hope you understand that this isn't over." Over the next few weeks, things moved quickly. Emily, with the help of our parents when they returned, filed a formal complaint against Miss Hartley. The school board launched an investigation, interviewing other students and teachers about Miss Hartley's behavior. It turned out that this wasn't an isolated incident. Several other students came forward with stories of Miss Hartley's overly strict and sometimes aggressive behavior. The investigation also revealed that she had been reprimanded before for similar incidents, but the school had kept it quiet. In the end, Miss Hartley was fired from her position at Westfield High. The school board issued a formal apology to me and my family, as well as to the other students who had been affected by her behavior. But my parents weren't satisfied with just an apology. They decided to take legal action against both Miss Hartley and the school district for allowing this to happen. Our lawyer explained that the school could be held liable for negligent hiring and retention, given that they knew about Miss Hartley's previous incidents. The legal process was long and sometimes frustrating, but eventually we reached a settlement. The school district agreed to implement new policies for teacher conduct and student safety, including a zero-tolerance policy for physical discipline. They also agreed to provide additional training for all staff members on appropriate disciplinary measures and conflict resolution. As for Miss Hartley, she was ordered to attend anger management classes and was barred from teaching in our state. The settlement also included a significant financial compensation for me and the other affected students. Looking back on that day now, it seems almost surreal. What started as a normal lunch period turned into a life-changing event. It taught me the importance of standing up for myself and others, and that no one, not even a teacher, has the right to physically harm a student. The whole experience was stressful and sometimes scary, but I'm glad that some good came out of it. The new policies at school have made it a safer place for everyone, and I like to think that my story might have helped prevent similar incidents from happening to other students. As for me, I finished high school without any more dramatic incidents, thank goodness. These days, when I look back on my high school years, that day stands out as a turning point. It wasn't easy, but it taught me valuable lessons about standing up for what's right, even when it's scary or uncomfortable. And you know what? I still talk during lunch. Some things never change. The next one is a petty revenge story. My house is the first house in the neighborhood behind mine. I am on the corner. The street on the side of my home is the homeowner association neighborhood, but my front yard is on a different street that isn't part of the homeowner association. When I moved, I asked them if I could pay their homeowner association fees to let my kids use the pool and playground directly across the street. Nope. I planted a mulberry tree on the corner of my property and started getting visits from their homeowner association saying that my branches were too low to the ground and it violated their homeowner association. I told them if I was in the homeowner association, you'd see my kids swimming in the pool. Since they didn't, they would have to deal with my tree. My kids love that tree and still come in spring to gather berries, even though they are in now their 20s. Then one day I come home and someone had lopped off a big branch from the tree, one that went out to the street. I tried to find out who did it, but they kept mum about it and there wasn't anyone I could go after. So, I rebuilt the branch using PVC and wrapped it in bright Christmas lights. It was May, and then wrapped the rest of the tree for good measure. I did it ugly too. It was propped up with old branches I found in the woods and some rope, and just looked awful. I kept those lights on all the way until just before Christmas when I took them down. They sent me some letters, but they just went into the trash. The homeowner association members who came to my house to ask me to bring them down since it was the gateway to their neighborhood and that I was probably affecting property values were told to duck off. They never did mess with the lights, though. I guess they were worried about what I would pull next. I went and looked at my FB and found a pic I took. It doesn't have all the lights, but it shows most of the awful glory. You can see the wound on the tree about a foot above the fake branch. The next one is a malicious compliance story. Several years ago, I worked for an aerospace manufacturing company. You already know this won't end well. As a setup operator, meaning my job was to arrive before shift start, usually 3 or 4 hours early, make sure all the 5-axis mills were calibrated. The ATC, automatic tool changer magazines, were all loaded correctly and the tooling was in good condition, nothing dulled or broken. If there was damaged tooling, part of the process was removing the carrier, replacing the cutter, and resetting the cutter height with a gauge, making it so that the tip of every cutter is in the exact same position for that particular holder every time. After being there for several years, the company eventually gets acquired and new management comes in. I'm there from 3 or 4 in the morning until 1 or 2 p.m., sometimes earlier if a new job gets added to the floor. Schedule works fine for me. I get to beat traffic both ways, and the pay is a bit higher due to the differential. After a few weeks, it gets noticed that I constantly leave early and always run over on hours, so they implement a new policy. Work starts at 9 a.m. and runs till 5. You have to be on the floor ready to go when the clock hits 9 o'clock. I try to explain to my new boss exactly why I leave early, but he's more concerned about numbers and cash flow than what I actually do there. So fine. You want 9 to 5? I'll work 9 to 5. Instead of punching in at 4, I chill in my car till 8:45 and roll into the building, wait till exactly 9 and punch, then head to the floor. Roll up to the first Haas on the line and hit the E-stop, which shuts the machine down instantly. Tell the operator this hasn't been set up yet and they need to wait till it's ready. Head down the line and punch everyone I pass, telling them the same thing. Not ready, go wait. I start at the end of the line with my platen and gauges and start calibrating the entire magazine, verifying everything in there is in spec and ready to be used. Get the magazine done and home the probe so the machine knows where it is in 3 days space and move to the next. That was about 40 minutes since I took my time. Meanwhile, the rest of the line is dead in the water. Nobody can do any work until their deck passes calibration and is certified to use. I'm partway through the second unit when I have my new manager breathing down my neck. Why is nothing running? What's going on? Etc. 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 I sit back on my haunches and calmly explain to him this is my job, the one that until today I used to come in hours early to do is to not mess with the production schedule. I need to get this done. Should be ready to start the line in another 5 or 6 hours, boss. I'm told to unlock and get the line moving, no can do. None of these machines are checked and I'm not signing off on the certification until I'm done. Anything not certified is a instant QC reject. Choose, run the line and reject $1 million in parts, or let me finish and lose $1 million in production time, and I go back to my old schedule tomorrow. The plant got a day paid to do nothing. I got the new boss off my back, and he got reamed all to hell for losing a day's production. The next one is an entitled people story. I moved in July to a 5-people apartment in a small Spanish city. I'm Spanish as well, known for its university life. I'm a student, so are the other 2 girls that arrived in August, while the other guy is working, and we're all in our 20s. The issue is the 5th roommate, an adult American woman, plus 40 years old, that moved in late August. We don't know her age or her specific job, just that she's from California, but she's been nothing but a nuisance. When I knew that we would be living with an adult woman, I worried, correctly, that instead of trying to cohabitate, she would try to behave like the head of the household and try to impose her own rules. And so she does. When she wants something done, it has to be when she says so. She doesn't agree with chore division and hates our leniency with those, and has been complaining non-stop about storage arrangements when there is plenty of space except for the fridges, which were a headache to administer. She also only speaks English and barely makes any effort to communicate in Spanish. I'm fluent in English, my other roommates aren't, so that part of basic communication doesn't work well. But what we all agree on is that she has been fixated on me for some reason. It started with fat-phobic remarks. She became super aggressive with me and tried to command my own storage space. Since I own loads of ingredients, I offered to free it if the others needed, but they refused as they had their own storage chosen and divided. She said I couldn't use more than 1 cabinet, but the thing is, she uses 2 different cabinets, she uses 2 bathrooms, and doesn't follow her chores. It's a common thing for her. Rules for thee, but not for me. It then became constant aggression with me, but I gray-rocked her while losing my patience. Otherwise, my other roommates are sweet, responsible, and respectful. We always talk and agree on things, and no single problem has arisen between us that couldn't be fixed with a quick conversation. It came ahead when I was using the kitchen, calmly cooking while listening music in my headphones. I like to cook, and I always clean after myself. She barged into the kitchen, accusing me of occupying loads of space. There's plenty of space, 3 people can cook at the same time in that kitchen, and demanding that I stop spending time there, while also calling me a hog. At this point, I lost my patience, raised my voice, and laid into her. I called her obnoxious, disrespectful, demanding, and unreasonable, that she's been nothing but a problem since she arrived, and forbade her from speaking to me till further notice. My other roommates heard the argument, and they sided with me, which further annoyed her. She tried to establish new rules like not using the kitchen beyond 6 p.m., informing when visits are coming, or a mandatory common lunch each week. The resounding no at unison clearly bothered her, and she just shut herself in her room. Since then, she's been avoiding us, and we're doing the same. She barely comes out of her room, and doesn't speak a word. Sometimes she says stupid stuff on the group chat, but she's ignored or cut off. The agency that manages the flat is aware of the trouble, and we agreed that if after this period of silence she persists, then she will be asked to leave. She's probably realized that she cannot force her will, and that we don't want to deal with her. As for now, she's not acknowledged me at all, so at least she's respecting my wishes. I don't feel bad because my other roommates and I are a united front. We know how to deal with her, and I just hope she reflects and chooses the best thing for her. Stay and behave or leave. Other issues with her, she's awake at night, so we hear her in the kitchen making noise at 4 or 5 a.m., but she complains if we make noise during the morning or midday because she's sleeping. She usually sends passive-aggressive messages at those hours requesting chores to be done ASAP, but we just say we will do those on our timetable. She's laughed at one of my roommates' accent, mocking how she speaks. She tries to manipulate the other girls by giving them gifts, which are old clothes she leaves on their doors, and when something didn't go her way, she says, "I've been so good with you, I give you gifts." There are many more, but this post is getting too long. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.